Welcome back to the Goalie Corner presented by Stop Goaltending. I'm Coach Michael. Today we have Jeremy Redquest and Kevin Linker on to talk all about hockey gear. To kick it off, I met these two gentlemen at the Hockey Canada goalie coach seminar in Calgary. It's going to be a few months ago now. We're kind of logging these episodes in, but welcome, gentlemen. I'll give you a couple minutes to introduce yourselves if you want, give a little background, where you're from, why you became goalie coaches maybe, and what you're currently working on or doing. Jared, we'll start with you.
Jeremy Redquest. Goaltending's always been in my life. My dad was a quick NHL career and played a few years in the pros and kind of fell into it growing up. And coaching, since I was even 13, helping him run clinics and all that. And then quick little D1 career, 4 years of riding the pine. Beautiful 4 years of riding pine. Can't complain.
Where were you for that?
Canisius, down in the beautiful town of Buffalo.
Nice.
Gets a lot of bad rap, but man, it's beautiful. And then graduated, got into coaching, and I've been goalie coaching ever since. Coached some pros, worked with Bennington, McNiven, a bunch of OHL goalies, and a bunch of up-and-comers as well, and focusing more now on women's hockey, doing a lot with the local women's league, and then AAA in all of Barrie and all over, pretty much on the ice 5 days a week, keeping busy.
Very busy.
Yeah.
Kevin?
Yeah, so I grew up kind of playing the position and then started working for the guy that I've been training with. I started training with him when I was probably about 13, and I've been working for him since I was about 16. Just finished playing 5 years of junior, so this past season was my first year kind of working full-time as a goalie coach, working a lot with the AAA teams, in the organization. Then I'm on staff with our local junior B team that I played for as well. So working through that, we do a lot of association clinics and then private stuff in the London area.
And so I brought you two guys out here just to talk about gear mainly. And it's because I don't keep up with current trends. Gear is gear to me. I was a Vaughn guy growing up. My dad wouldn't let me use Reebok and then CCM. And then in college, I had to switch to CCM and decide to go with E-flexes because I liked the knee rolls. I liked a little squishier pad and keeping the rebounds close. But I don't know anything like that now. I feel like back in the day, if you're a athletic goalie, you wore Vaughn because Kippersoff and all the athletic goalies in the NHL wore them, right? And if you were more of a box control and use your size, you use Reebok. I don't know if that's even accurate because then you have Fleury, who's crazy athletic, wearing Reeboks and stuff like that, right? So it might have just been something that someone told me along the lines and I just went with it. Right. So I don't want to keep spreading misinformation if that's misinformation anymore. But kind of a question I get a lot. It might be a doozy. What are the major differences between the style of pads or the brands of pads? And does it matter how you actually play as a goalie?
Yeah, I think it definitely does. And then I think so kind of within like each brand, like if you look at CCM, Bauer, your Vaughn, True, they kind of all have these two different product lines. So this year is kind of what I've called like the year of the softer pad. So Bauer's in their Vapor line, Vaughn's in their Velocity line. It's all kind of stuff that you see more associated with that softer pad. Now, that being said, everything this year seems a little bit stiffer than it has in the past. But each year when they release their brands, everything kind of flip-flops between this year's soft, next year will be something more stiff like a Supreme from Bauer or the CCM Axis. It's that traditional flat-faced that's designed to kind of kick rebounds out, probably more for goalies with a little bit of a wider flare.
Okay. Now just comparing two pads, what's the major difference between like the Bauer? I think Mock is their stiff pad. And then the CCM Axis.
So both going to be designed to get that rebound going right out hard as you can. that ultra stiff pad, really no break or one internal break. Just it's pretty much like super stiff. Any kind of butterfly, if you don't have a wide set butterfly, it actually turns into like a narrow butterfly, the way it
Right.
pushes you in. So I mean, you really have to get on the ice and try these pads sometimes, especially these super hard ones, to make sure you can actually butterfly properly in them.
I also noticed that a lot of those pads are going to, I can't remember the marketing term for it, but the knee block is attached to the surface of the
Yeah.
pad itself. What's the
So
purpose of that?
that's something Bauer kind of kicked off. They were kind of the first ones that did it, if I remember correctly. And basically, like the way we've explained it within our store is kind of like with having that knee block built into the pad. Now that allows for the pad not to rotate, because if you get a knee block that's kind of floppy, it's going to rotate, over rotate, and with the stiffer knee block that's built into the core face of the pad, it's going to allow that goalie to kind of land more consistently in that butterfly without having over rotation where they're ending up on their knees or under rotation.
Okay. Kind of bringing it to minor hockey a little bit. Kevin, you said it kind of does matter how the goalie plays.
Yep.
If I had a taller goalie at the U13 level that moves well, what would you recommend for the pad style? Obviously, that's pretty vague.
Yeah.
But what would you recommend?
I think it's all like, for me, it comes down to kind of that ability to close the 5-hole. So like they can be a super athletic kid, but if like their joints are tighter, and they might not be as flexible, you probably want them in something that's a little bit softer, just because that pad's going to kind of bend in more to help them close the 5-hole, maybe give them a little bit more of an assist. So probably something more with a single break, something like a velocity, or a CCM. The nice thing that I found with Bauer from like this past year, their intermediate core of the pad is pretty much the exact same.
Yeah.
So you're not seeing a ton of a difference. Now the core between the Vapor and the Supreme line and the intermediate size stuff is all the same. And they kind of made that transition because the Supreme was super tough to sell, just with how stiff it is for younger kids. They weren't able to close butterfly. It's tough to sell that.
So you would recommend a softer pad to someone who's like a stiffer goalie?
Yeah. If there's less flexibility there, definitely you want something that's a little bit softer that's going to help the kid
Gotcha.
close the holes.
Now, here's just kind of a question I came up with, because you used to see double breaks all the time, and now everything's single break. I love my single break CCMs. Are we all happy with the single break and the internal single break as the new kind of standard across the board?
Have you seen a Vaughn SLR or a Bow or like a CCM Axis run without an internal break? They are like super straight. It is insane to see.
Kind of
And
like an anti-Niemi.
And it's to see a kid try and butterfly in it. If they don't have like massively long thighs, they can't even get close to a butterfly.
Yeah. Now, would you recommend a double break for them?
As long as it's some kind of internal break, minimal, maybe even external, like going to an E-flex or a V10, something like that. And some goalies still do the double break. You just don't see it as often.
Yeah, it's more Brian's I see now.
Brian, some Vaughns have it as well if you custom order them, but it's mostly the internal or the one external is all you need.
I think that's just kind of evolved with the way goaltending's evolved too. Like everyone that's growing up now, you don't really see anyone that's making like a straight pad, like a stand-up save, right? So everything's kind of working with the goalie. And now that everything's kind of wider and goalies are designed to be more flexible, you don't need as much help because that double break pad is super soft.
Gotcha. Okay. Moving on to skates, right? I threw this into the group chat, I guess it was a month ago now. But do we want a stiff boot? What's the difference between like the top of the line skate boots and the model down for goalies? Is there a significant difference?
Yeah, it's a huge difference. And I mean, you got to put the kid in the boot and let him try it on. Then usually you have to adjust lacing in the really high end boots so the kid can still get forward pressure on that skate without locking up and hurting. Like I've seen kids that come off, they can't get in that stance, can't get over their toes because they're just so stiff.
Right.
And that's where, like we said in the chat, that's where that Connect technology is supposed to give you a way to get around that.
So for like the younger kids that don't necessarily have that ankle strength, the softer boots would be best.
If you're going stiff, you're leaving eyelets open. You have to in some way.
Yeah. Okay. Kevin, you got anything?
I think like, especially with crew, like you see it, like even like their lower end skate, like that boot and the tongue is still like super, super stiff. So I think for younger goalies, like Jared said, like creating that forward flexion in their stance, if that skate and the tongue combination is super, super stiff, like it's going to be hard for them without creating like different habits in the way they tie up their skates. And even like I've seen kids that are wearing like top of the line skates that are just absolutely reefing on like the top place. I actually had a kid the other day. He tried on 6 pairs of skates and couldn't find anything that he liked because all the tongues were too soft and he could feel the laces through the tongue. And these were like top of the line skates.
Yeah.
So like for me, that means his foot is so locked into that skate that like there's no forward flexion there.
Right. Right. What is the purpose of the stiff boots then? Because when I was growing up, we had the, I want to say Vapor 30 with the see-through cowling and everything like that. And it was super soft boot. And then it seemed like the very next skate model, like the Total Ones or something like that, it went straight to stiff, a higher ankle rise. And then it's been like that ever since until the Trues came out. So what was the purpose of going into a stiffer boot?
Supposed to be direct pressure to the ice. So as soon as you move, your foot won't move inside the shell. It's supposed to give direct, like all right away, right to that ice and a hard push.
Okay.
But you have to be able to like flex it and move in it. Like I'm not a big guy for stiff boots.
Right. Okay. For me, like I used to tie my skates kind of like how Kevin was talking about. I really only tied tight on my ankle, like to lock in the heel, and then I would skip the second last eyelet so I wouldn't get lace bite, and I would tie as tight as I can. I never used wax laces, so over the game or practice, it would like loosen up. But I also have pretty strong ankles and I'm a pretty heavy dude, so like for me that getting low and getting that ankle flexion wasn't tough. But my CCMs that I have now, the tongue's like completely cut off because of the lace, like the pressure I would put on it.
Like when I'm playing net, like occasionally, like so I'll to create the forward flexion, I'll go up to the second top eyelet, and then from there I just take the lace directly up. So I go through the second eyelet directly up, and then they cross over to create the knot in the middle.
Okay, so you're kind of making a box or a rectangle then.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
I switched to a forward tongue in my skate.
Like a skater tongue?
Yeah, I have custom CCM tacks, and I put like the 48-ounce felt tongue on my skate from the forward skate when I made it. And
Do you guys still wear
thing ever?
Do you guys still wear goalie skates when you coach?
Yeah,
I'm in player skates. I'm in custom trues.
Oh, nice.
Why'd you switch to player skates? Everybody goes to player skates, and I don't understand why.
I just find like for me, like around the net, like if I'm shooting, it's easier. Like it's just easier to make more like player like movements. Knowing that I can still make all the movements I normally like would have when I was playing.
Okay.
See, for me, I normally have a lot of shooters on the ice.
Yeah.
So I'm not doing much movement. I might take a shot here and there when I need to, but mostly it's my shooters in the movement. So I'm just correcting and moving little sometimes. So I still feel most comfortable on my goalie skates.
Yeah, my goalie skates, someone was telling me that was the comfort move to go to player skates, and my goalie skates are so comfortable I don't want to leave them.
Yeah, mine are like custom Vans. I literally put a size 12 toe cap on a size 6 skate. It's amazing on the ice.
You're just the drip king, hey?
It was CCM one year, so I won a prize, and they made me custom skates. We literally went to town customizing these things.
Damn.
It's awesome.
We'll go full out.
My last year of college, I got 2 free pairs, and I'm still living off them.
Oh,
College skates were a size 6, so I couldn't wear them anymore.
Yeah. Luckily, I stopped growing at grade 10, so I'm all set. Okay, last couple questions, all about gloves. What is the difference and the tactful use of the 580, 590, and 600 break gloves?
Kev, want to go first on this one?
oh, you would ask too, eh? I think so. If I'm thinking about gloves, like to me, just the way it feels, like a 590 feels more like that traditional baseball style glove. It's like if I walk over next door and put on a baseball glove in our baseball department, that's kind of the feel that I'm getting from that 590.
Yeah.
And the way it closes. So generally, if I've got a kid that's played ball in the past and knows how to catch, that's kind of a glove I want to point them towards. Rare skill these days. I know it's crazy that it's come to that. The 600, it was super, super popular at one point.
Yeah, it was the Carey Price gloves, right?
Yeah. And it's just kind of, I feel like it's kind of died partly because the junior and intermediate gloves that we saw with the 600 breaks, so your Supremes, the previous generation E-Flexes, like kids, just because I feel like you need a bigger hand to be able to close it, to get your fingertips all the way to the end. Kids haven't been able to close it. And because of that, they've gotten used to something else, and that's just kind of stayed with them. Last year's Bauer did really, really well for us, the mock.
Really?
Yeah.
But that was kind of the first year of Supreme that's done well for us. I know there was a bunch of times where we had to go back and reorder just to keep stock. The 580, man, like it just feels like a vacuum to me. And like a lot of people say that, like just the way it closes. Yeah, it's a less traditional feel for sure, but with how big the pocket is, just with the way your hands arranged in the glove, like it feels good. And I find like goalies that are wearing it are retaining a lot more pucks.
Would it be fair to say the 600 is more of a scooping low glove? The 590 is kind of like the in between, and the 580 is more like getting the high shots.
I don't think you're far off on that.
Yeah.
All right, maybe I do know everything.
Like I know for me, first time I put on like Bennington's 580, it felt so weird at first.
Yeah.
Then you start catching with it, and literally every puck stays in.
You're more catching like right beside the thumb.
Oh, it's right in front of you. It's literally right that hand up motion almost. And
so,
but the 600s, I find, like you said, I can't even get my hand into it.
Yeah.
Right.
So just personal, like for me, like 580 wasn't really ever a big thing because no one ever really made it stock for the longest time.
Yeah.
And like the first time we ever got one in, I remember putting my hand in it and like it just felt weird. I didn't like how much the T curled like over top of the glove. Like it felt like everything was kind of collapsing in on itself. And I said, like, I don't think I could wear this. And I think it's kind of the same with like CCM and Trues. It's kind of like I find the T curls pretty over dramatic.
Yeah, it's like a banana.
Yeah. And then Bauer's Vapor 90 this year, we got our demo stuff. I put my hand in it and I'm like, this feels like so good. Like,
it really does.
It feels like butter out of the box. It's unreal. It's what I'm wearing right now.
So big 580 fans, I see.
Yeah, I got my new V10 this year. I put my hand in right away,
Yeah.
It's still like a 590 kind of fit. But it's probably the best glove they've made in years. The way it actually felt, the thing, like no real finger curl is going to happen. You can see it just felt really good on that. I put on the new Bauer Hyperlight 2, and that thing felt phenomenal too.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a year for gloves, where last year I found the opposite. I hated the Supreme on my hand. I don't know if it's my hand shape.
Yeah.
I couldn't close it.
I've had a few troubles with the Bauer. I think they are Supremes. It seems like they have a massive pocket, and their padding really is just where your hand is, right? Like you look at the Vaughn Velocity, it's a little bit more spread out, a little bit smaller pocket, and it just makes some of the goalies' gloves close almost like the base first, so they can't come around with everything else.
Yeah.
Right.
And just to clarify, that's the V10 XP 70 degree, right?
It was literally just the stock V10 line. Just it's not the because they have a 580 on what's out or coming out, but I felt that, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I felt a one with actually zero padding in the middle.
Yep.
It was called like a super game ready, and it was like flat right out right first time on. It was insane.
And I know
I'd pass that up. See you later.
Because Vaughn has 3 different lines of V10 within that V10. So there's the V10, which is the stock one's kind of designed to feel like that old T5500.
Yeah,
that's probably more your speed hails.
Yep.
And then
Probably.
Get me a Vaughn Epic any day.
Yeah,
I hated those.
No.
Yeah. Sorry. Same with T5500, I think it was. Like the Kippersoft line, I was so used to the velocity where the bigger pocket, anything that hit me in the hand, anything that I wasn't catching into the pocket killed my hand.
Oh,
and
really?
then the finger curl was just crazy after the first practice.
man,
that
that
finger curl.
Kipper spec glove, looking back on it, is such a unicorn.
Yeah. Yeah. Last question. Well, second last question. What's the difference with the 591? That I think it's CCM that came out with it. Is that just a marketing thing?
I think everyone has their own version of it.
What is it? What does it mean?
Tell you the truth, I don't know the exact spec difference.
I think it's just 1 degree different, isn't it?
So here,
just the thumb, is it not?
So 591. So that was what CCM dropped last year with the Axis line. Completely different than anything that's ever been on the market before.
No finger channels. Disgusting feeling.
That is
disgusting.
So there's a spot for your thumb.
Yeah.
And the other 4 fingers kind of float freely.
Does one mean like one pocket for your fingers?
I really just think it's a way for them to differentiate between like a 591, saying that it doesn't have finger stalls, versus that stock 590, which is available through custom order only at this point. Jared, I don't know about you. It didn't get received well down here.
Yeah, no, and when you talk to the autograph here and there, they don't talk about it either.
Yeah. We kept getting told it does so well in Europe. It's doing so well in Europe. And unfortunately, we live in North America.
I don't know. I put my hand in it. I felt so lost.
Yeah. It feels like an oven mitt.
It feels like something's missing consistently.
The oven glove. Yeah.
And then, so this year they've done 581. So they've, again, going back to that 600 break, E-Flex used to be a 600 glove. It's now a 581. So there's a loop on your thumb, and then there's a place for your index finger and your pinky. And then your other 2 fingers just kind of float freely. It's better, but it doesn't close like a 580 normally does. I find the closure of it is still it's more 590-ish than it is 580-ish.
It kind of wherever your hand falls, that's going to be the close of that glove, it seems like.
Yeah.
So we've had that received a little bit better. It's been okay for us so far. But yeah, that's kind of the difference. So when you hear like 581, that's basically them just taking out finger stalls.
Yeah. Save on the material.
Save on the material, the workmanship, get those costs down and those margins up.
Yeah. Love it. Not to hopefully get rid of a sponsor one day. Question from Instagram. Hunter, no idea how to say his last name. Why did everybody switch to True, and what is so good about them?
I think a lot of it was to do with Lefebvre leaving CCM being on their own to start, and then just True jumping on the wagon there and getting a hold of that.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys who had the same guys making their gear for years, just that switched the same people making their gear. It was literally no change, but a change in name. I think there was also more sponsorships as well.
Yeah. Like as soon as Lefebvre left CCM Reebok, everything changed, right?
Yeah.
And what is it that Lefebvre does so well where it doesn't matter what pad you or brand he's with, it's going to sell?
I really like it's the workmanship associated with it to a certain extent. But like their designs, they have the copyright to the designs. So like if you look at like a CCM eFlex 3, which is when they were still partnered up with Lefebvre, versus now you look at an eFlex 5 or an eFlex 6, it's totally different pads simply because it kind of had to change around the way that it was built because Lefebvre had all those copyrights. So now you're looking at guys that wore CCM all throughout their junior careers. Saros was Binner one, Jer? CCM.
Binner was a Bauer guy in the O, and then CCM when he went pro.
Yep.
And then Lefebvre right away.
Yeah. So it's those guys that have worn CCM in the past when they were with Lefebvre, that are making the jump to True because that's how they know they're going to get the same feeling gear. And obviously that's impacting the market a lot because kids want to wear what they're seeing in the NHL.
Now, from what I hear from the pros, there's something internally about their pads where there's like no breakdown and something stiff really around that boot and where it connects up that no other company can really give that same feeling. I'm not sure if it's a material or how it's stuffed, but something around that ankle bend flexion there is supposed to be like phenomenal.
Might take some more research, I guess.
I know of reps and companies that have looked into it and everything, and it's something they do at just a certain material they use, but it just has that certain stiff feeling right around the ankle.
Right. Okay. I did have a question. Oh, hot take. Warrior gear, would it be beneficial for younger kids to use Warrior gear more often because it's more adaptable to growing and the types of practices they have?
Absolutely.
Than getting the Bauer CCM, grow 2 inches, have to get new stuff?
They pretty much had a really good handle on the market a few years with their junior stuff. They still do, but some of the other companies now come out with really good junior intermediate pads to try and combat that.
Yeah.
I mean, we no longer sell Warrior Goalie in my store for the pads and gloves. I wish we did for the kids because it was always like a top selling pad for juniors.
Is that because Warrior's pulling out of North America, or?
I think it was a purchasing issue with my company I work with. We still carry the chests and pants, but I think it was just a decision to go with True over the Warrior gear.
Okay. Going for that name brand recognition.
Yeah, and I'm not sure Kevin's thoughts on the 9X3 gear, if he's had a good look at it yet or not, but I have 16 sets and still in stock.
Yeah. 9X3, I think people that are coming in looking for that are willing to make the extra $300, $400 jump to get something that's made in Canada versus something that's made offshore, right? I know. So with Warrior, it was always a really, really good seller for us. And then kind of over the pandemic, they really struggled. We struggled a lot to get supply.
Yeah.
And that kind of led to kids not being willing to change, but being forced to change because your pads are 3 inches small. I'm sorry, kid, I don't have Warrior stuff for you. Let's try and find you something that's more comparable. I still think Warriors gloves in terms of junior probably blow away most things on the market just because of how easy they are to close.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
really like where you see it. And then their innovation this year with that slide guard. So the plastic piece that sits on the knee block helps. It's really good, a slide aid, no matter the ice condition, just because there's no friction between the knee block now and the ice.
Have you seen it?
No.
Oh yeah, we have tons of it in the store.
Can you wear it in games?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting. Don't know how it sounds like back when cowlings were a thing, people used to screw
Yeah,
like little pieces of metal for an extra edge for sliding.
The graph kick blades. Yep.
Yeah.
now there's kids that like already they've worn Warrior all their life, they want to keep wearing it, and they find like the slide guard's just too much. But the nice thing is it's removable, and you still have like kind of that indented design that from Warrior that slides well. For some kids it's too much, for some kids it's definitely super beneficial.
Right. I have a couple kids using like some sort of wax. They wax up their pads every ice time and fly at it. I'm kind of sitting there. I'm like, just get stronger.
Hit the gym.
Hit the gym.
Yeah, exactly. I just keep working on those slides.
Yeah, they're also like 8, so it's like
Jumping jacks, little jump rope.
Yeah, I'll make them do burpees.
Yeah, there you go.
The worst. All right, I think that's been super helpful, at least on my end. Kept it kind of basic. We might have to do it again and get into chest protectors and pants and knee pads and stuff like that maybe one day. But thank you guys for coming on. If you want to shout out your own social medias and stuff like that, have at her. You'll get all of 3 follows.
Oh, Jerry, you want first dibs at that one?
I don't really have much. I have like Instagram. That's it. I'm old school. I have like, it's like Jeremy Redquest goaltending, and I think that's it. Like I'm really not a big social media guy.
He's in the yellow pages if you need to find him.
So for me, I've got my coaching Instagram. It's GD_Coach Kevin. And then the store I work at SFS Padded Room. That's specifically our goalie Instagram.
You guys do unboxings and everything like that?
Absolutely. I've caught a few knife flips in the last few weeks. Just got a gross retro cream Brian's Optic 3 set in. It's pretty.
Was that online the other day?
Yeah, yesterday.
I think I saw that one. I think that's him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. All right.